semiconductors and renewable energy.
But of course, the spotlight is squarely on the defense agreements, given heightened maritime tensions with China. News 5's Shaila Francisco, in fact, is joining us live from Washington for more updates. Shaila, what time is it out there? How is the atmosphere right now in Washington?
Ladies, it's past 8 a.m. and all eyes are eagerly fixed on this momentous Trilateral summit happening tomorrow here in Washington. President Marcos and his delegation are expected to arrive later here at around 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Philippine time. President Marcos, U.S. President Joe Biden, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will convene their first ever Trilateral summit on April 11. Coming on the heels of joint military exercises and high-level U.S. official visits to the Philippines. The meeting is expected to center on defense and maritime cooperation, as well as enhancing economic ties, particularly in the areas of infrastructure, semiconductor, and digitalization.
It is mainly an agreement to strengthen the cooperation on the economic front. Of course, security and defense is going to be part of that discussion. I think I can assure everyone that that is not the main intent of this trilateral agreement. The main intent of this trilateral agreement is for us to be able to continue to flourish, to be able to help one another, and of course, to keep the South China Sea as a freedom, to keep the peace in the South China Sea and the freedom of navigation. It is my intention also to exchange views with my U.S. and Japanese counterparts on various regional security issues of mutual concern, while continuing to reiterate the importance of upholding the rule of law and preserving the rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific region.
For the U.S. National Security Council, the summit gives the leader a chance to tackle difficult issues in the South China Sea.
This trilateral meeting comes at a very important time as the Philippines has found themselves under increasing pressure from the PRC in the South China Sea. This should, of course, be taken as a sign that not only President Biden, but Prime Minister Kishida wish to show their support and resolve for President Marcos and his handling of this incredibly difficult issue. I think what you will see is a strong showing of support and solidarity amongst our three leaders for a common vision of a South China Sea that is governed by international law.
There is also a chance that the Mutual Defense Treaty may be discussed.
I think is crystal clear to any observers, and that is the fact that the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty applies to the Philippines in the South China Sea, again, to vessels underway, including Coast Guard vessels. We stand strongly by our alliance commitments to the Philippines, and that is one of the things we will be talking to President Marcos about when he is in town.
Ladies, aside from the three-way meeting, President Bongbong Marcos is set to have a bilateral talk with U.S. President Joe Biden. He will also have other meetings on Friday before flying back home to the Philippines. Ladies?
Hi, Shaila. Shawn here. Aside from those three-way talks, what else can we expect or are we expecting from the bilateral with Biden, or at least between President Marcos and Biden? And why would they have to meet separately from the Japanese PM?
Shawn, the bilateral talk with U.S. President Joe Biden may not necessarily involve Japan issues or Japan commitments. The White House earlier was quoted as saying that the bilateral talk or the talks with between President Bongbong Marcos and U.S. President Joe Biden will include a review of the momentum of the U.S.-Philippine-China relations and will involve cooperation specifically on economic ties, clean energy, human rights, and democracy. Shawn?
These are more country-specific talks,
like
one-on-one, right?
Talks, right?
Yeah, well, at the end of the summit, what kind of a joint statement are we expecting? There have been mentions of a shared vision.
Reg, the joint vision statement will include a forward-looking document that will include or involve the common principles for cooperation and also areas and sectors for cooperation. We are also waiting if this will include more joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea. We listened to the White House yesterday as they were saying that there will be more joint naval exercises following the successful joint naval exercises last week in the Philippines with Japan, US, and Australia. Reg?
That was actually Gretchen. I didn't realize we sounded alike. But anyways, last question to you, Shai. Of course, before he left, the president designated Vice President Sara Duterte as caretaker, along with two others. That's Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and DOTr Secretary Estrella. And the question a lot of people are asking is that unusual?
Reg, what we got from the Presidential Communication Office is that it has always been that way. Vice President Sara Duterte will be the chair and he will have two assistants such as Agrarian Reform Secretary Conrado Estrella and Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin.
Shaila,
Reg?
bago ka namin pakawalan, because I saw on the news that the Japanese Prime Minister already went around the U.S. To do several events. How about the President? Does he have other sideline trips? Will he be meeting OFWs? Will he go, to his favorite restaurant? Anything you're hearing about that?
Unfortunately, we haven't heard anything other than the trilateral meeting and the bilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden. But we'll keep you updated if there are additional schedule in his itinerary for the two-day visit.
Abangan natin yan kasi nag-seafood dinner si President Joe Biden tsaka si Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. I wonder where our president will go with President Joe Biden.
They will have also like a mandate with the U.S. president.
Okay, but in the meantime, we will let you go. Thanks so much for that. News 5, Shaila Francisco reporting live from Washington, D.C. And in fact, she's at the National Mall, what they call the National Mall, which is close to the White House, with the monument right behind her.
Gretchen, according to President Bongbong Marcos, his administration has no information or idea about this agreement. But when asked about this is what President Marcos said.
I am horrified by the idea that we have compromised through a secret agreement the territory, the sovereignty, and the sovereign rights of the Philippines.
In a media interview at the town hall meeting he attended, the president mentioned that nobody informed him about it when he assumed office in Malacanang.
We don't know anything about it. There is no documentation, there is no record, there is no... We were not briefed when I came into office. Walang nagsabi sa amin na merong ganung usapan.
The problem, however, is that officials from the previous administration have different tones regarding the matter. Former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque had previously stated that part of the gentleman's agreement was to keep the status quo in Ayungin Shoal, where BRP Sierra Madre is located. Former presidential chief legal counsel Salvador Panelo refuted this, saying Duterte himself said there was no such deal. When asked if he plans to speak with former President Duterte about this, Marcos also had this to say.
We are talking to his former officials, maybe not the president himself, but all his former officials. Tinatanong namin, ano ba yan? Ipaliwanag niyo naman sa amin para alam namin yung ginagawa namin. And we still haven't gotten a straight answer.
Gretchen President Marcos said he has plans of talking to Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Wang Shilian, to clarify this matter about the agreement. Recall that China has repeatedly cited this particular deal to put the blame on the Philippines over the worsening situation in the West Philippine Sea. Gretch?
All right, thank you so much for that update. We have Maricel Halili.
We're going to pause for a quick one right now, but right after that, we are speaking to a transport official about the government's efforts to improve Metro Manila's mass transit system. Stay with us.
We'd like to say thank you so much to all of you for coming through the traffic. Holy I think, you know, we've seen some traffic, but I think you have the #1 in the world. So thank you for making the effort to come through all of that.
Well, we certainly are not proud of that statistic.
Pero bakit nga ba tayo nag-Throwback Thursday?
The reason we showed you that clip is because today, President Marcos formally laid out his administration's plans to address the country's traffic problems. At today's Transport Summit, Marcos said the only way to decongest Metro Manila is through mass transit. And that's why he says his government is rushing some key railway lines.
Kahit yung mga mayayaman na may kaya, sumasakay sa tren dahil yun ang pinakamabilis mapuntahan ang kahit na yung malalaking syudad, New York, ganun, London, ganun. Kahit na sino, ang tren ang ginagamit. Kaya yan talaga ang tanging solusyon.
For their part, the Metro Manila Council approved the shifting of government employees' work hours to 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. to lessen traffic congestion during rush hour. The government is also looking to transfer some 200 government offices in NCR to nearby provinces. Studies show that there are around 645,000 government workers in Metro Manila, and 145,000 of them own personal vehicles.
Ang permanenteng solusyon sa lumalalang traffic ay infrastruktura tulad ng kalsada at tulay, efficient mass transportation, decongestion ng NCR at epektibong polisiya sa trapiko. May nagsuggest na mag-appoint daw ng traffic czar para sa Manila. Sa amin pong palagay, mas epektibo po ang koordinasyon sa bawat ahensya ng pamahalaan.
Dapat ay matiyak natin ng pag-unlad at pagdami ng oportunidad ay maramdaman hindi lamang dito sa NCR, kundi pati sa ating mga probinsya. Hinihikayat natin ang mga negosyante na mumuhunan sa iba't ibang mga lungsod sa labas ng Metro Manila.
Some major advocacy groups, though, were apparently not invited to this traffic summit, and one of them was Alt Mobility PH, whose director spoke with Radyo 5 Ted Filon and DJ Chacha this morning, and here's what they said.
Nakakalungkot. Kasi kung titingnan mo yung mga listahan ng mga inimbita, mukhang limited lamang ito sa mga select partners at mga select government officials lamang. Inaasahan sana namin na ito yung magiging simula ng usapin para tuluyang malutasan, magawa ng paraan itong mga problema natin sa traffic at transportasyon.
Let's dive into this transport issue. Joining us tonight, we have Jonathan Gesmundo. He's the Executive Assistant to Transport Secretary Jaime Bautista. Jonathan, thanks for being with us tonight. Welcome to The Big Story.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight at your show.
So big day, no? President Marcos led the transport summit, and he also gave a progress reports on some of the major railway lines. If I could just break them down, we have in figures North-South Commuter Railway project. It's about depending on the segment. Malolos Clark, we're at about 56.5% completed. Tutuban Malolos, we've got 61% completion. Manila Calamba is at 38%. And then also talking about the other big railway project, which is Metro Manila Subways, is at about 41% at the moment. So my first question to you is, are we still on track to get these online by 2028?
Yes, many of the projects are on schedule. But let me clear that those progress reports include all the preparatory works, all the feasibility studies, all the contracts. So actual implementation, what you see you might not agree that it is at that percent. Still, the momentum is there. A few weeks back, the president created a task force that will address right of way, which the Department of Transportation through Secretary Bautista isolated as one of the big problems that we have in fast-tracking or advancing the completion of our big-ticket projects. Right of way is not just in rails, in other infrastructure of the DOTr. There are problems on right of way, and we have been asking cooperation from other agencies on how we can resolve many issues on right of way. Again, our projects, as you mentioned, on railways, they are on track, and we hope that we will be able to do partial operations ahead of those deadlines.
Which areas have the biggest right-of-way issues? Where
The
are you having
subway.
where are you having the most trouble?
The subway and the NSCR.
Yeah, but which specific segments? Where are the right of way issues specifically?
For instance, the secretary mentioned that in the line between Ortigas and Shaw Boulevard, there is a structure there. I think it is the property of the Department of Education that has just recently been declared as a heritage site or cultural site, and therefore they will have a problem turning over to us to DOTr the title of that property. That's just one. We have some problems with residents of a subdivision, of a plush subdivision that is from Camp Aguinaldo to Ortigas. So those are just samples of issues. There is one family who, the property owner, these are stories from Secretary Bautista. One property owner already died, and the heirs, they cannot get the approval, signature of all the heirs. Some of the heirs oppose it, some of the heirs are abroad, etc. These are the kind of issues we face in resolving right of way.
But if I may say so, no, Jonathan, that's not a new issue. Ano po yung work around dito sa mga right-of-way issues? Is there a plan? And if talagang mas timey tayo, no, at hindi pumayag yung may-ari ng lupa, what happens then?
The answer to that is there is the course of the last recourse is expropriation. That government will go to the court and will say that we are expropriating the property, but we will compensate. But the court will now determine the right amount that we will compensate the property owner. But that is the last recourse.
Okay, but until we reach the court, do you guys personally have a department that calls these people, whether it's commercial property, a private, a family property, what have you?
Yes, we have people coordinating with courts, with the local government, even with the barangay, on how to amicably settle disputes on how much we should be paying them, what is the rate that we will use, etc. There are ongoing negotiations, but there are complicated issues that we need, let's say, to go to court. We have hired additional lawyers. We have asked the Department of Justice to help us with special courts to resolve right-of-ways. And now the big boost comes from Malacanang, coming up with this working group or task force that will ask other agencies to help us fast-track resolution of our right-of-way.
Jonathan, let's take a look at some numbers. The volume of vehicles now in NCR stands at 3.6 million daily, and this isn't really going down, with car sales going up in the past quarter, showing that the number of vehicles is on a trend to increase. Paano po natin i-decongest yung streets natin if we are moving still towards being very much car-centric?
Very good, Gretchen, for raising that. The strategy, the different agencies that attended the summit this morning, from DPWH to MMDA to NEDA, they have listed their efforts building six additional bridges across Pasig River. The huge Bataan Cavite interconnector bridge, when once completed, it will be the second largest bridge in the world. But what the Secretary Bautista is advocating is for private vehicle owners to use mass transit, not just rails. We have been successful with busway, with other modes of mass transit, so that there will be less cars on the road, more users more using the public transport. Mentioned in this morning's summit, the number, the amount, the economic loss is no longer just 3.5. I think that 3.5 billion pesos a day has increased from to 4.9 billion a day. That is the latest number. Okay, realizing this, we need cooperation, not just private car owners. We are seeking cooperation from local government units and other agencies to help us convince. Do not use your own vehicles. Let's try to use public public transport. But we admit that our projects are still years before they get completed,
Sir Jonathan,
and which is why the other stakeholders in this problem, we need their cooperation. For instance, again, let me go back to right of way. If some of these issues can be amicably resolved. Second, if if our advocacy of use of active transport or bicycles or non-motorized vehicles, if we can promote their use. So there are other advocacies that we are pushing so that we can help in alleviating the traffic problem.
Sir Jonathan, speaking of alternatives, unang-una nagrereklamo po yung ilang grupo na hindi raw po sila naimbitahan dito. Kasama na po dyan yung Alt Mobility PH. Ano po masasabi ninyo dyan?
Okay, yung summit, that was organized by MMDA. Pero kumbaga para sa akin, why not focus yung nakapunta at nakapagsalita at nakapag-offer ng mga nandun ang napakaraming jeepney operators, nandun ang motorcycle taxis, ang angkas. So there are various representatives from various stakeholders who are optimistic, who are extending their willingness to cooperate. So we got this feeling that we should push this further with future collaborative meetings, because everybody agreed to the problem and everybody agreed to extend help.
Okay. Speaking of motorcycle taxis lang, that was also mentioned, motorcycles in general was mentioned by the President. Napakarami po na nag-turn to motorcycles dahil mahirap nga rin sumakay at napaka-traffic, mas madaling sumingit pag nakamotor. Motorcycle taxis from 51,000, they've increased the allotment by another 8,000 slots, which will hit almost 59,000 motorcycle taxis. Ano po ang plano ng DOTr for motorcycle taxis? Ililegalize na ba to? Right now, we're still on pilot run. So how will that whole segment be cohesively integrated into this holistic plan, transpo plan?
Okay, the issue of motorcycle taxis, this is under the LTFRB. Already mentioned, declared by Secretary Bautista, the 8,000 additional slots. He said that this will be assigned outside of Metro Manila because they are already saying that there are too many motorcycles already on the road. So what the Secretary said is any of the additional MC franchises or slots will be assigned outside of Metro Manila. We still promote the use of these motorcycles instead of private vehicles na four wheels, because it had gained big acceptance from Metro residents. I understand from LTFRB that they are moving towards already submitting a final report to Congress because Congress is waiting for the final report so that they can draft the finalize the draft of the bill. And how it will look, it will depend on the report of LTRB on the final study of motorcycle
Yeah.
taxis.
Okay. And we await that final study eagerly. Please keep us posted. But for now, we're going to have to leave that there. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Jonathan Gesmundo, he's the Executive Assistant to Transport Secretary Jaime Bautista.
We're going to be pausing for another quick break for now. Right after that, Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim brothers and sisters, because when we return, we will be speaking with UP Institute of Islamic Studies Dean Julkipli Wadi in order to help us better understand the significance of Ramadan, especially to Muslim Filipinos. Keep it here. Muslim friends and viewers watching, we join you today to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Filipino Muslims gathered for morning prayers today across the Philippines. President Marcos also sends his warmest greetings. He says that he prayed for sustained provision of wisdom and fortitude in working to build harmonious, prosperous, and compassionate communities. The president also said, and I quote, "It is also my sincere hope that despite our diversity in beliefs and philosophies, we will remain united by our shared aspiration for a more progressive and resilient nation moving forward."
Joining us tonight to talk about the Eid holiday as well as current issues faced by our Muslim brothers and sisters, we have with us on the show tonight Professor Julkipli Wadi, Dean of the UP Institute of Islamic Studies. Eid Mubarak, Dean.
Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, just for better appreciation for all of us and everybody watching, tell us all about this occasion. What is Eid al-Fitr all about? Is it like Christmas? Because I believe there's also some, charity gift giving.
Or is it more like a Holy Week?
Right.
Or is it more like Holy Week, breaking of the fast? Give us how important and the significance of Eid al-Fitr for our Muslim brothers.
Eid al-Fitr means day of feast. It is the culmination of the ending or the Ramadan, which is the month of Ramadan. So the first day of that is already considered as Eid al-Fitr, which means that every individuals who have performed their fasting would have to stop their fasting and would go to a mosque or to an open field to engage in their prayer. So basically, it's actually a prayer in the morning, early in the morning, then the sharing of foods, refreshments with those in the congregation. And this is done not only in the country but worldwide. So this is very significant because it is a product of a 30-day struggle in terms of restraining ourselves from eating and drinking. And as you know, fasting is a tradition not only of Muslims, but even of other faiths, of other religions. So the principle behind is really like, you are cleansed, you are purified. The toxic parts in our bodies after 30 days of fasting are removed. So you are like a new person, so that you'll face the future, another round, another cycle of time with much enthusiasm, with much energy, because you're already, in a sense, purified. So this is basically the idea of fasting. And even more important, it is a spiritual process. It means, apart from the cleansing, physical cleansing, one is able to elevate himself or herself spiritually. So in other words, this is actually a resource for a person to be able to face the future with much energy and enthusiasm. I think you are familiar with the idea of, intermittent fasting. It is very much the same, except that there are strict, rules that we need to follow in terms of the time we have to stop eating early dawn, say 4:30 in the morning. So no water, no food. You will only break your fast at around 6:15 in the afternoon.
Out of curiosity.
In the evening, it's actually not. You are allowed to eat regular foods, but actually, you almost lost your appetite. So it is preferred that you will be engaging in prayer at night.
Okay, so our
it's
idea.
basically a spiritual process.
So our idea of there being like a super big buffet, that doesn't actually happen. After 30 days of eating just pretty much at night,
No.
medyo sumiskip.
No.
Okay, so it's actually a lot more prayerful, and it's not like
Precisely.
it's not.
But it is still a happy occasion, Professor Wadi, right?
Of course.
and-
In fact,
and-
today is here in the university.
Yeah.
We had our, like in other places, we had our prayers. Then we have small refreshment. The Institute of Islamic Studies prepared everything for our congregations. Even our chancellor was around. So everyone was quite joyful. And we prepared, in terms of the UP police helping, the traffic, the ASSB, even ambulance. We prepared the ambulance, including fire. We requested from the Quezon City Hall.
Professor, I was curious. It's already 2024. Ramadan has been around. It's been happening every year for a really, really long time. I'm curious if like younger Muslim Filipinos are still very much into, following, the true spirit of Ramadan. And if they really stick to, those rules, I know it's very strict, there's specific times, very specific times. Do younger Muslims also still stick to those old traditions? Because I noticed Holy Week, Good Friday, sometimes there's more restaurants open, di ba? Medyo iba na eh. I was wondering if it was the same for Ramadan.
Well, if you notice in some footages, the demographics of attendees or attendance in the prayers are really cuts across old and young and children, joining the prayer, and they actually participate also in fasting. Although we are not saying that every kids, every teenagers are really doing their fasting, but if the probably I can speak of our family. As early as say 5, 6, 7 years old, my daughters are already performing their fasting. In fact, they are restraining them not to join because they're very young, but yet they're the one insisting. Now that they are teenagers, so they are really enthusiastic whenever Ramadan comes.
Right.
So that is what is, I think, unique with fasting, because it carries with it, I think, some spiritual benefits in terms of also forging closer relationship among families and relatives, because you share food when you do your sahur or your iftar. We call it iftar when you break your fast. Then you perform your prayers together. So that can really strengthen solidarity and, camaraderie among families, their relatives, and so on.
Right. Professor, also Ramadan this year was a little bit heavy, I understand. Not just for Filipino Muslims, but Muslims around the world. There is still, ang daming gulo diba? In the Middle East, and that's still there. Did that change kind of like the tone? Earlier we were talking about, just off camera, we were talking about the bombings that happened. There was that message from Ayatollah Khomeini. It was pretty heavy. But here in the Philippines, you have the president, with his message. And some quotes from that is to form a more harmonious, a kinder society. How do these messages, amidst all the gulo in the larger, kumbaga, worldwide, how is this all resonating with Filipino Muslims?
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, so to speak, with the president personally expressing his solidarity with our Muslim brothers in the Philippines. But we are also as concerned. There is that part of the Muslim world in Palestine, experiencing this. I think the peak of sacrifice. For around 7 months, they have been bombarded with bombs and so on and so forth. So really, it pains us, even if we are so distant from the Middle East. But there is this tradition that every believers are brothers amongst themselves. When one part of the body is hurt, then other parts of the body feels the pain. In fact, that's the subject of my, we call it khutbah or sermon in the university this morning, that one way to express our solidarity with our Palestinian brothers is for us not only to engage in fasting, but to even fortify ourselves in whatever way possible, including, doing more prayers and affirmative actions with ways that would, impact on parties concerned to, to take the road of peace, because war is destructive. No one will benefit from it. So that's precisely my message this this morning that we will, if possible, continue our fasting because you might be surprised. It's not only Muslims who are fasting as far as traditions of other faiths is concerned. In the Bible, probably as you know, Moses fasted for 40 days in the Exodus. And in the case of Jesus, he also fasted for 40 days. And
Right.
Muslims fast for 30 days.
Right.
Although there are other voluntary fasting, if you combine voluntary fasting, it's actually equivalent to 40 days. So this is what I'm saying. The Muslims are actually followers of the traditions of other faiths and previous prophets. So I think that that's the way to go, so that we cannot fight oppression with oppression.
Yeah.
We really have to fortify ourselves in terms of promoting peace, in terms of promoting spirituality amongst ourselves, so we become stronger. We will have the willpower in ourselves because we are connected with Allah, with our faith. So that was my message
Yeah.
this morning.
Hey, Professor, we are with you in those prayers, certainly. And we do hope for the granting of peace all around the world. Eid Mubarak once again. And thank you so much for sharing with us your
Thank you.
faith, your spirituality, and your traditions. Joining us tonight, UP Institute of Islamic Studies Dean, Professor Julkipli Wadi.
Moving on now, netizens have called on authorities to arrest a vlogger who disturbed two tarsiers in a video that has gone viral on social media. Let's take a closer look.
Oh, huh? Smile, baby! Smile! Smile, baby! Smile! Smile! Smile!
So this is the latest one taking social media by storm. But in the now deleted video, vlogger Ryan Pareño, a native of South Cotabato, who is known as Farm Boy online, was captured picking up a tarsier and laughing with another person while asking the animal to smile for the camera, as you just saw and heard. In another social media post, the vlogger explained that they were relocating the tarsiers to a wildlife area since the animals were in a community zone. Now, the Philippine Tarsier Foundation has since called out that act, stressing that people showcasing animal harassment should be held accountable. The conservation group also said, quote, "The internet has been used to trigger all sorts of negativity and frenzy for the sake of monetization. Showcasing animal harassment must not get incentivized, and accounts who leverage on it for clout must be taught a lesson." In its own statement, the DENR said that they are investigating the matter and have confirmed that the two tarsiers have already been released in the wild. Philippine tarsiers are included, of course, in the DENR's list of threatened species due to habitat loss and illegal capture and trade.
Trending na naman yung Bohol sa Twitter kanina.
That's right.
Ewan ko lang
Because
kung
they're
pinag-
tarsiers.
Oo, galing sa Bohol yun.
Right,
Lahat ba
I
ng tarsier?
wonder.
You know, have you ever
That's
gone
a
on a
natural habitat.
Yeah, nakapunta na ba kayo dun sa Tarsier Conservation Center in Bohol where they will tell you, number one, bawal bulabugin yung tarsier dahil mabilis silang ma-heart attack.
Oo,
Mabilis
ayaw
silang
nila.
Well, I
magulat.
don't even know that you're supposed to hold them, right?
Yeah.
You're not even
You're not
supposed
supposed to.
Yeah,
touch
you're not
them.
supposed to touch them.
Low human interaction yata yung dapat eh.
And they don't like loud noises. So yung ginagawa doon, that was everything that the camp ranger was telling us not to
Nakita
do.
mo lumaki yung mata ng tarsier.
No, I couldn't even watch the
It's already big to
Sorry,
begin
sorry,
with. but you're right. It's we wonder what's going on over there, no? With all of these incidents. Could be just a coincidence, yes, but nevertheless, issues to look into.
I think the intention was good. They were trying to relocate it to a safer space.
Maybe
Maybe
that's
they didn't
true.
care.
I hope that's true.
Sometimes, you know, your intention is good. Yung execution means
I don't know that that the intention justifies the means.
It doesn't.
At this point, though,
But
because
it's at least a
holding
lesson.
it and then, you know,
Making it smile and
trying to agitating it. That's
For
the word I was
content.
looking for content, agitating, disturbing it for content.
I guess
don't
for me
know
na
that
lang
that's
the-
acceptable.
the takeaway is I hope people from, you know, who saw the video have actually learned what not to do whenever they come across a protected animal like the tarsier that is endangered. But Before we go, here is our big picture for tonight. President Marcos and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. This was from Monday night at the James Taylor concert at MOA Arena. The First Lady shared these photos on social media last night, just one day after President Marcos admitted that he already missed 2 dates with the First Lady amid his tight schedule. Sinabi pa ng Pangulo na nagtatampo na raw si First Lady Liza. The President vowed, though, that he will make it up to his wife after his state visit or the Trilateral visit to the United States. But we take it or we assume na medyo nakabawi naman si President Marcos with this James Taylor date. Add ko lang
He does like his concerts, huh? We were just showing President Marcos at the Coldplay concert earlier. Tapos ngayon naman
we
James
started
Taylor.
with that. Tapos,
Okay, but wait.
Natatawa ko sa James Taylor Swift because some people don't know who James Taylor
ako,
is.
sinearch ko pa. You've Got a Friend. Yun sa kanya pala yun, no?
Oh my God. Get out of here.
May sabi ni Robbie, di ba, pagka yung before, meron siyang pinost, Robbie Alampay, may pinost siya sa Facebook na pag nabomba raw yung MOA, mawawala daw lahat ng titos and titas of Manila. Kasi nanood sila na.
Well, we're not there. So,
Well,
what do you call us?
Hindi naman lahat kasi
What do you
hindi
call
kami
us?
nakanood ng James Taylor nung Monday night.
But just very quickly, speaking of dates, it is also the first anniversary of when we took over the show.
Yeah, the big
not the big story, but the
This
first
version of
this
the
version
big
of the big story, the all-female
O kaya ka binanggit ko si
newscast.
Robbie Alampay pag pupugay.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
Robbie.
Robbie.
But I mean, we're talking about the all-female version of this newscast.
Okay.
April 10.
Thank you for being with
April
us
10.
in the past year.
So, happy birthday to us. Happy anniversary to this incarnation of the big story. But that's it for the show tonight.
Sana sa dulo ng linggo may pakain. We are wondering
Thanks,
all
Gretch.
sides all the time.
Maybe someone out there wants to send us some food. We'll gladly accept it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Good night.